Wife, hand me the red binder. Every person in the conference room stopped moving. So did I. I had meant to say Madeline. Why my exhausted brain skipped over her actual name, ignored boss, and landed directly on wife was a question I would spend the rest of my life regretting. Madeline Shaw stood beside me with one hand resting on the binder. She did not move. Neither did our chief operating officer. Neither did legal. Even the technician on the video wall seemed to forget he was supposed to be explaining why one of our surgical transport units had failed a hospital acceptance test. I cleared my throat. Madeline. I meant Madeline. Nobody breathed. Madeline slowly picked up the binder. She was 35, CEO of Whitmore Clinical Systems, and normally capable of making 6 senior executives uncomfortable with one quiet look. Right now, she was looking only at me. I held out my hand. Binder? She walked closer. Too close. Instead of giving it to me, she leaned toward my ear. Her voice dropped low enough that only I could hear. Say it again. My pulse kicked. What? Her eyes stayed on mine. You heard me. That was the first moment I realized I might not be the only one who had spent too much time pretending there was nothing unusual between us. Madeline. Her expression cooled. Wrong word. Across the table, our COO suddenly became fascinated by his laptop. I took the binder from her. We have a failed unit. Yes. Hospital waiting. Yes. Potential safety issue. Yes. And you want to discuss my temporary brain damage. Later. That word somehow made it worse. We returned to the failure review. Barely. The transport unit had stopped during a floor transition at St. Gabriel Medical Center. No patient had been inside. The backup brake engaged correctly. Still, a machine designed to move patients between surgery and recovery did not get to stop unexpectedly. I led reliability at Whitmore. That meant when something failed in a way nobody understood, I got the unpleasant privilege of asking why until people stopped defending themselves and started defending the evidence. The technician on screen showed us the motor logs. I found the abnormal current spike in under 3 minutes. Connector resistance. Engineering Director Caleb Moss frowned. We checked connectors. Static resistance? Yes. Under load? Silence. There. I pointed to the current trace. Vibration shifts the contact. You only see it when the floor transition loads the drive. Madeline watched me, but not the screen. I felt it. I ignored her. We halted shipments. Sent a field team. Built a vibration test for the morning. Problem contained. At 1:18 a.m., everyone finally left except Madeline and me. I closed my laptop. She did not. You're still here. So are you. I work here. I own enough of it to make the same argument. Fair. I stood. Madeline closed her laptop at last. Then she said, "You never answered." I knew exactly what she meant. I pretended otherwise. Connector resistance? Her eyes narrowed. Ryan. There it was. My actual name. A warning. I looked at her. You seriously want me to repeat it? Yes. Why? She folded her arms. Because you called me wife in front of 9 people, corrected yourself in less than a second, and somehow the correction was the part one disliked. That was not subtle. My exhaustion vanished. Madeline. Yes? Are you flirting with me? No. I laughed. Her face remained completely serious. That was worse than yes. She stepped closer. We have worked together for 4 years. Yes. You have called me difficult, unreasonable, terrifying, occasionally brilliant, and once a spreadsheet with cheekbones. You were not supposed to hear that. I hear most things. Apparently. You have never called me anything remotely affectionate. And wife qualifies? Extremely. There was no safe answer. So I chose honesty. It slipped out. Her jaw tightened. I know. You look disappointed. I am. That hit harder than her whisper. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from Eastborough Medical Collaborative. I had been expecting it for 6 days. I opened the email. Madeline watched my face. What? I read the first line twice. Then said, they offered me the fellowship. She went completely still. Eastborough ran a 9-month clinical engineering fellowship in Minneapolis. Engineers worked inside hospitals with nurses, physical therapists, and equipment technicians instead of designing from headquarters. I had applied 3 months ago. Quietly. Not because I hated Whitmore. Because I wanted to know whether I was still an engineer or had become a professional meeting attendee who occasionally remembered what tools felt like. Madeline looked at the screen. When would you leave? 6 weeks. For 9 months. Yes. Then you come back. It was not a question. I looked at her. That part isn't guaranteed. Her eyes sharpened. What does that mean? The fellowship has a permanent clinical systems role attached to it. You didn't mention that. I didn't know if I get selected. And now I decide whether to go. Madeline turned the slim silver pen in her hand. Once. Twice. She only did that when trying not to show emotion. I had seen it during lawsuits, recalls, and one board fight that nearly removed half her executive team. What are you thinking? I asked. That your timing is terrible. I smiled. For the company? No. That answer came too quickly. Then she looked at me. For me. Second escalation. I stopped smiling. Madeline took one step closer. Say it again. Wife? Her eyes softened instantly. That was my answer. Not everything. Enough. I leaned against the table. You really like that? Yes. Why? Her pen stopped turning. I'll tell you if you stay for 10 more minutes. I laughed. Blackmail. Negotiation. I should have left. Instead I sat back down. Because my new problem was no longer whether my accidental word meant anything. It was why the coldest woman I knew looked more shaken by 9 months without me than by being called my wife in front of half her executive team. Madeline used 8 of her 10 minutes badly. She asked whether Eastboro had sent compensation details, whether housing was included, whether I would retain Whitmore benefits during leave, whether the fellowship required relocation. All useful questions. None were the question I had asked. At minute 9, I stopped her. You're hiding behind logistics. I am collecting information. You already know how fellowships work. I do. Then why did wife matter? Madeline put down the pen. 1 minute left. When my assistant asked last month whether I should schedule your annual review before or after your birthday, I knew your birthday without checking. That proves you have a functioning memory. I know your brother calls every Tuesday. I stopped. You know that? You leave exactly at 6:10. That's creepy. You told me once. When? 3 years ago. Of course she remembered. She continued. You refuse catered salmon because you got food poisoning from it in college. You drink coffee only after 9 because your first cup too early makes you nauseous. When you are angry in a meeting, you stop taking notes. I looked at her. That's a lot. Yes. Why? She picked up the pen again. Minute 10. Because somewhere along the way, paying attention to you stopped requiring effort. That was the first real confession. Not love. Not even like. But far beyond CEO concern. I smiled slowly. Madeline's eyes narrowed. Don't. You're embarrassed. No. You memorized my salmon trauma. It was relevant to catering. Sure. She stood. 10 minutes. You owe me another. Why? You spent 8 pretending to be HR. Her mouth almost moved. Then she surprised me. Dinner Friday. Work? No. Date? She hesitated for maybe half a second. Yes. Relationship upgrade number 1. No dragging it out. I nodded. Okay. That should have been enough for one night. Madeline apparently disagreed. At the door, she stopped. And Ryan? Yeah. If you call me wife again before Friday, I will not object. I laughed. Go home. You first. We finally left at 1:40. By 8:30 the next morning, everyone knew. Not officially. Office physics. If 9 people hear a reliability director call the CEO wife, 400 employees know before breakfast. My teammate Jordan Pike walked into my lab holding coffee. Good morning, husband. Leave. He sat. Did she kill you? No. Disappointing. Work. Did she like it? I looked at him. That was enough. Jordan's eyes widened. No. Work. She liked it. Jordan. The Ice Queen liked wife. I pointed toward the door. He left laughing. At 10, Madeline joined the vibration test. She had no reason to be there. Our engineering director noticed too. Madeline, we'll send results. I'm already here. She stood beside me. Too near. The connector failed exactly as predicted. I showed the team how the locking tab shifted under repetitive load. Jordan leaned across the bench. Ryan, can you hand me the scope lead? Before I could, Madeline picked it up and gave it to me. Not Jordan. Me. Jordan looked between us. I refused to react. Then a female engineer from quality, Sasha Reed, approached with a test tablet. Ryan, can you check this trace? She leaned beside me. Madeline's expression changed. Not enough for Sasha to notice. Enough for me. Madeline moved the tablet to the center of the bench. You can both see it from here. I looked at her. Jealousy. Already. Third relationship movement in less than 12 hours. Sasha explained the trace. I answered. Then she left. I turned toward Madeline. You repositioned a tablet because Sasha stood too close. No. You absolutely did. She was blocking the emergency stop. She was 6 feet from it. Madeline's face cooled. I dislike your interpretation. You dislike that it's correct. Her pen was not available, so she pressed one thumbnail against the side of her index finger. New nervous habit. I smiled. You are enjoying this. Maybe. That is immature. Maybe. Then she leaned closer. Friday. I remember. Good. Before walking away, she added, and Eastboro? What about it? Do not decide before dinner. That crossed a line. My smile disappeared. Why? Her face changed. She hurt herself. I'm sorry. Good. Immediate correction. It is your decision. Yes. I want time to tell you what I want before you make it. Better. That's fair. She nodded, then walked away. I watched her go. The company's ice queen had admitted interest, displayed jealousy, asked me on a date, and apologized for trying to influence my career before lunch. My fellowship email had been open less than 12 hours. And somehow Friday suddenly felt much farther away than Minneapolis. Friday dinner lasted 20 minutes before Madeline told me she had nearly kissed me 2 years earlier. We had not even ordered entrees. I put down my menu. Excuse me? She looked calm. Too calm. You asked when this started. I expected a year. 2. What happened? Phoenix. That narrowed it immediately. 2 years earlier, Whitmore had installed a surgical equipment transport system in a new Phoenix hospital wing. 3 days before launch, a floor sensor fault began triggering random stops. Everyone thought software. I didn't. I spent 14 hours with a maintenance technician named Omar Delgado walking the route manually until we found expansion gaps in the new flooring were slightly outside the construction tolerance. The drive wheels were reading each gap as abnormal resistance. The hospital contractor was furious. Whitmore Sales wanted us to compensate in software. I refused. It would have hidden a construction problem. Yes, Madeline said. You supported me. Eventually. You fought me for 3 hours. You cost us a 7-figure launch delay. The floor was wrong. I know. So when did the romance happen? Her eyes held mine. The next morning. I barely remembered the next morning. We had been at the hospital before sunrise. Omar's daughter had a school recital. He was going to miss it because the contractor demanded another overnight test. I told him to go. Then I ran the route myself with 2 other engineers. You found out? I walked in at 5:30. Omar was gone. And? I asked where he was. You said, somewhere more important. I smiled faintly. That sounds like me. You had been awake 22 hours. So had he. You were senior to him. That doesn't make his kid's recital less important. Madeline looked down at her water. That was when I understood the difference between someone being reliable and someone making everyone around him more reliable. That was the reason. Not my job title. Not proximity. Not because I flattered her. Because of something I had done when nobody thought romance was involved. I liked that answer more than I wanted to admit. So why didn't you kiss me? You smelled terrible. I laughed. Seriously? No. Her mouth curved. I was CEO. There it is. And you were still dating Leah. I frowned. Leah? Leah Matthews. I started laughing harder. Madeline's expression cooled. What? Leah was my cousin. Silence. Beautiful silence. You took her to the holiday party. She was visiting. She kissed your cheek. She has known me since birth. Madeline stared at her water. I leaned closer. You were jealous of my cousin for 2 years? I did not know she was your cousin for 2 years. How long? 4 months. That is still incredible. Ryan. I could barely breathe from laughing. Then Madeline said, I disliked her immediately. That made it worse. I reached across the table. Not planned. My fingers touched hers. She stopped. So did I. First deliberate contact. Her eyes dropped to our hands. Then back up. I did not pull away. Neither did she. Relationship upgrade again. Madeline. Yes? You could have asked. I know. What stopped you after you learned Leah was family? Her thumb shifted under mine. By then, I had already convinced myself that wanting an employee was something I should manage, not pursue. That was more reasonable. And now? You may stop being an employee. There it was. He leaves. She breaks character. I smiled. So Minneapolis is what finally broke you. Her expression tightened. Partly. What's the other part? She looked away. Your apartment. I blinked. What about it? You renewed month to month. How do you know? You mentioned it to finance when changing your reimbursement address. That is alarmingly specific. You also sold most of your furniture. Still creepy. And you stopped volunteering for long-term product assignments. I understood where she was going. You realized I was preparing to move before I applied. Yes. How long ago? 2 months. You've been waiting 2 months for me to say something. Yes. And then I called you wife. Her eyes returned to mine. That was poorly timed for my self-control. I laughed. Dinner became easier after that. Not less intense. Just honest. She told me she hated olives. I told her I secretly enjoyed terrible reality cooking shows. She admitted she watched courtroom documentaries while doing expense reports. Normal pieces. Needed pieces. When dessert arrived, a man approached our table. Thomas Venn, one of Whitmore's board members. He looked surprised. Madeline. Then at me. Ryan. Madeline did not remove her hand from mine. That mattered. Thomas noticed. Of course. Dinner? He asked. Madeline answered. Date. My pulse jumped. Public acknowledgement. Not hidden. Thomas recovered quickly. I see. He did not. Nobody did yet. He wished us a good evening and left. Madeline released my hand only after he was gone. Board disclosure Monday, she said. You already thought about it? Yes. Fast. I am CO. Then she looked at me. Does that bother you? The fact she asked mattered. No. Good. I leaned closer. Does this? What? I kissed her. No delay. No interruption. No artificial hesitation. Madeline froze for half a second. Then her hand caught the front of my jacket and pulled me closer. There was the woman who had whispered say it again. When we separated, she looked at me like I had just changed a contract without approval. Ryan. Yes? Again. I smiled. Wife? Her eyes darkened. That too. By Monday morning, HR knew we had kissed. Because Madeline told them. Not details. Thankfully. She filed a relationship disclosure before 8. Transferred authority over my fellowship leave, bonus, performance review, and any possible retention decision to the COO. I read the document in the HR office. Then looked at her. You did this before I came in. Yes. Didn't ask me. Her face tightened. Then I added, good. She relaxed. This is one area where you should not need my permission. Agreed. HR asked whether I intended to continue the relationship. Madeline looked at me. Waited. My choice. Yes. Her expression changed. Tiny. But enough. Formal relationship confirmation before halfway. Good. Now the story could move to a harder question. HR finished. Madeline and I left together. In the elevator, she said, say it. I laughed. We just signed a governance disclosure. I know. And this is what you're thinking about? Yes. I leaned closer. Girlfriend. Her mouth flattened. Coward. You have been officially dating me for 72 hours. Still. I smiled. Then the elevator opened. Outside stood the COO, Nathan Briggs. He saw us. Saw how close we were. Said absolutely nothing. Smart man. That afternoon, Eastboro called. They wanted me in Minneapolis for a 3-day pre-fellowship clinical workshop. Next week. Not relocation yet. Just orientation. I told Madeline over coffee. Her first reaction. I'm coming. I raised an eyebrow. She closed her eyes briefly. Wrong. Very. She tried again. Can I ask why I want to? Sure. Because 3 days feels like an unreasonable preview of 9 months. That is emotionally honest. I dislike it. You'll survive. Then she asked, would you want me there? No. The answer hurt her. I saw it. Good moment not to soften dishonestly. Why? Because I need to meet them as myself. Madeline listened. No CEO beside me. No Whitmore relationship attached. I need to know what the work feels like when I'm not carrying my current company into the room. Her fingers tightened around the cup. Then loosened. All right. Another cost. She could have manufactured a business reason. Eastboro used Whitmore equipment. She did not. I went alone. The workshop changed me immediately. First morning, I spent 2 hours with a physical therapist and a nurse discussing why standard surgical transport handles were awkward for shorter staff. No product presentation. No commercial objective. Just problem. We built a temporary grip extension by lunch. It was ugly. It worked. I loved it. That night I called Madeline. You sound happy. I am. Silence. Then. That is unfortunate for me. I laughed. You asked for honesty. I regret it. Then she said, tell me everything. So I did. Not about career positioning. About the nurse who had used the same workaround for 6 years. About the therapist who told me engineers often visited, nodded, then returned with something nobody had asked for. About how different it felt to build from the room outward instead of the product inward. Madeline listened. No counterargument. At the end, you should go. I stopped. You mean the fellowship? Yes. You really mean it? No. I laughed. She corrected herself. I mean that I think you should go. I do not mean that I want you to. Important distinction. Then she said something else. I knew this might happen. What? That you would find work you love more than Whitmore. There. Bigger fear. Not another woman. Not distance alone. Losing the version of our future where I automatically came back. I sat on the hotel bed. What if I do? Her answer came after several seconds. Then we solve that problem when it exists. No controlling plan. No false promise. Good. When I returned Friday, Madeline met me in the parking garage. Not my office. Not executive floor. She stood beside my car. I smiled. Were you waiting? No. You're standing beside my vehicle. Coincidence. Terrible liar. She walked closer. How was Minneapolis? I told you. In person. Good. Her jaw tightened. How good? Dangerously. She exhaled. Then said, I missed you. First direct admission of need. No dramatic setup. 3 words. I stepped closer. I missed you too. Her eyes softened. Then. Say it. I laughed. Wife. She kissed me before I could say anything else. Madeline became openly possessive after Minneapolis. Not recklessly. Just enough to entertain me. Tuesday morning, I was reviewing a test setup with Allison Park from Clinical Research. Allison leaned across my desk to point at a chart. Madeline walked by. Stopped. Walked back. Ryan. I looked up. Yes? Your 11 o'clock moved to 10:30. Okay. She remained. Allison looked between us. Anything else? Madeline's eyes moved to how close Allison was standing. No. She left. Allison waited 5 seconds. Your girlfriend is terrifying. I smiled. CO. Both, apparently. 10 minutes later, Madeline texted. She was very close. I replied. To the chart. Still. I laughed. That afternoon, I found her in the executive conference room. You are jealous of Allison. No. You texted me. That was observational. You are bad at this. She looked at me. Does it bother you? That was the real question. No. Her shoulders loosened. Within reason. They tightened again. What is reason? No making up meetings. I did not. No moving her desk. I had not considered that. Madeline. I'm joking. I stared. She smiled. Actual humor. Dangerous growth. Then she asked, are you jealous? Of? Anyone around me. I thought. Your CFO. Her eyebrows lifted. Nathan? He gets more dinners with you than I do. That is because quarterly reporting exists. Still. Madeline smiled in a way I had never seen at work. Pleased. I understood immediately. The powerful ice queen liked being wanted too. So I stepped closer. And Thomas Finn. Board member? He looked at you too long Friday. He is 62. I still work. She laughed. Then caught my tie. Not pulling. Just holding. Good. What? I wanted to know. Relationship reward again. Then reality interrupted. Not with a villain. With a board packet. Whitmore had been considering a new role for months. Vice President of Clinical Reliability. The packet reached executive review that week. My name appeared among 3 internal candidates. I stared at the document. Madeline saw. Her face changed. You did not know? No. I recused before nominations. Who nominated me? Nathan. That mattered. The role paid more. Had a larger team. And would give me more clinical exposure without leaving Whitmore. Exactly the kind of position that could compete with Eastborough. I looked at Madeline. Did you design this? No. Were you involved? Early. My stomach tightened. How early? 8 months ago. Before the fellowship. Before our relationship. What did you do? I proposed creating a clinical reliability group. For me? Her silence answered. I closed the packet. Madeline. She sat. No defensiveness. I saw that you were frustrated. So you built a job. I started to. Why didn't it exist then? I stopped the proposal. Why? Her fingers found the silver pen. Turned it once. Because I realized every version of the role kept you reporting within my executive chain. There it was. Again. You could have changed the line. I did. And? It became less coherent. So you killed the role. Yes. You never asked me. No. That is the same problem. I know. You decided what I should not have because of your feelings. Yes. At least she did not hide. Then came the first major reversal. I did not restart it. I frowned. Nathan did. When? After your Eastboro application reached benefits review. I stared. Meaning the company saw I was leaving. Yes. And independently decided the gap was real. Yes. So the role that once might have been a romantic excuse had become a real organizational need after my departure exposed the problem. Madeline looked at me. If you want to apply, apply. And if I get it, I will be happy. Because I stay? Yes. Because it's right for me? She paused. I don't know yet. Good answer. That was honest enough to trust. I took the packet home. For the first time, I had two real options. Eastboro, or a legitimate Whitmore role built from a problem I had been complaining about for years. And because Madeline had stepped away from the process, the choice could actually be mine. I applied for the Whitmore role. Madeline hated not knowing how the interview went. I enjoyed that more than I should have. How was it? Fine. What did Nathan ask? Questions. Ryan. You are recused. I can still be emotionally curious. That is a dangerous loophole. She glared. Then kissed me. That usually ended the argument. The interview itself had been strong. But Eastboro was stronger in one way Whitmore could not replicate. Clinical immediacy. At Whitmore, I would still build products for hundreds of hospitals. At Eastboro, I would spend each day inside the problems. Scale versus closeness. Neither answer obviously better. That was the right kind of career conflict. Then the second reversal came from Nathan. He asked me to lunch. No Madeline. No HR. He placed an old organization chart on the table. 8 months earlier. Madeline's first clinical reliability draft. I saw my name. Then 3 other names beneath it. I frowned. She really did build this around me. Nathan nodded. Initially. And killed it. Yes. Why are you showing me? Because you're misunderstanding one part. I waited. Madeline did not stop because she was afraid of scandal. What then? She stopped because you told her something. I frowned. When? After the Denver conference last year. Memory came slowly. I had complained after a product meeting that everyone kept solving my career by giving me more responsibility inside the same structure. I said, half joking, if the answer to every frustrated engineer is another title at headquarters, eventually you just have better paid frustrated engineers. I remembered Madeline sitting across the table. Silent. Nathan tapped the draft. She withdrew this 2 days later. That changed it. Not just conflict. She listened. She realized the job she wanted to create might solve her fear of losing me without solving what I actually wanted. I leaned back. She never told me. No. Why? Nathan smiled slightly. You know her better than I do now. Because telling me would have made the restraint look noble. Madeline hated being praised for self-control she considered necessary. That was the second major reversal. She had seen my value. Wanted to keep me. And stopped herself not merely because of ethics, but because she actually heard what I needed. That evening, I went to her apartment without calling. Not normally acceptable. She had given me the door code 3 weeks earlier specifically for emergencies. I rang instead. Good. Madeline opened wearing sweatpants and an old university sweatshirt. I stared. What? You own sweatpants. Leave. I laughed and stepped inside. Why are you here? I held up the old organization chart. Her face changed. Nathan. Yes. I will fire him. No. Temporarily. I put the paper down. You listened. She looked at me. When? Denver conference. Her expression softened. You remembered what I said about another headquarters title. Yes. And killed the role. Yes. Even though you wanted me here. Yes. I stepped closer. Why didn't you tell me? You would have thanked me. Probably. I did not do it for gratitude. There she was. I touched her face. You really are terrible at romance. I am improving. You ruined an entire executive role instead of asking me to dinner. It was not a good role. Still, I kissed her. When we separated, I said, I love you. Madeline froze. Exactly like the first time I called her wife. Then her eyes widened. What? You heard. Say it again. I smiled. There it was. Full circle. I love you. Her composure broke. Not tears. Close. She grabbed my shirt and pulled me against her. I love you too. Formal love before the final quarter. No saving it for the last page. Then she whispered against my neck. Wife. I laughed. That is not how the noun works. I don't care. We stayed together that night. No dramatic intimacy scene. Just Pete's on her couch, shoes under the table, and Madeline falling asleep with her head against my shoulder halfway through a documentary. That small normality mattered. Because by morning, I knew the hardest truth. I loved her, and I still wanted Eastboro. I withdrew from the Whitmore vice president search. Madeline learned from Nathan. She did not call. That worried me. At 6, I found her alone in her office. You know. Yes. You're angry. No. Sad? Yes. Honest. I sat across from her. Why didn't you call? Because I knew why. Tell me. She looked at me. You want to go? Yes. And if I ask you to stay now, every good thing between us becomes part of the negotiation. Exactly. I reached across the desk. Her hand met mine. No hesitation. I am coming back. After 9 months? I don't know. Pain. There. I refuse to lie. The permanent role may be right. I know. But I'm coming back to you. That changed her expression. Those are different. Yes. Good. Then she asked, can I hate Minneapolis? Deeply. Excellent. My last month at Whitmore became a relationship instead of a countdown. Madeline ate lunch with me twice a week. Publicly. No special work treatment. She still rejected one of my budget requests. I complained. She told me my numbers were weak. They were. She left coffee on my desk after. That balance mattered. Then the company hit a serious test. The revised hospital connector passed lab validation but failed one field vibration sequence. My team recommended a 2-week shipping delay. Commercial leadership argued against it. Normally Madeline made the final call. She recused because I led the reliability recommendation. Nathan chaired the decision. The delay passed. Without her. Clean. Afterward, Madeline found me near the test floor. I agree with the hold. Good. I hated not being able to say so in the meeting. Growth. Stop calling suffering growth. No. She looked at me. Then smiled. 2 weeks before departure, Eastboro offered me something unexpected. Not the permanent job. A chance to lead the fellowship's new rapid response engineering team from day one. More responsibility. More reason to stay after 9 months if it worked. I told Madeline immediately. No hiding. She listened. Then said, you should accept. I stared. That fast? Yes. Why? Because you were already talking faster. What? When you describe Eastboro. I had not noticed. She had. You sound like you do when a problem is finally interesting. That was one of the most romantic things anyone had ever said to me. Because it meant she knew my mind, not just my schedule. I accepted. My final day came on a Thursday. At 5, my badge expired. At 5:03, Madeline appeared in the lobby carrying something behind her back. I smiled. What? She held out the red binder. The exact one from the night I called her wife. I laughed. You kept it? It is company property. Then why are you giving it to me? I'm not. She opened it. Inside was our first connector failure report. On the back page, in her handwriting, wife, 1:11 a.m. I stared. You wrote down the time. Yes. You are insane. Accurate. Then she closed the binder. Say it. Still? Yes. I stepped closer. Half the lobby could see. I did not care. Wife. Madeline smiled. The Ice Queen CEO smiled in the middle of headquarters like she had forgotten everyone else existed. Then she kissed me. Publicly. No hiding. No board concern. My employment was over. Our relationship was not. When we separated, she whispered. 9 months. Maybe longer. Her smile disappeared. I laughed. Had to. You are cruel. You love me. Yes. That answer came instantly now. Growth. The next morning, she drove me to the airport. At the curb, she did not tell me to come back. She asked, when can I visit? 3 weeks. Too long. Too barely acceptable. I kissed her. Then she caught my sleeve. Ryan. Yeah? If you love it there. I waited. She struggled. Then forced the words out. Do not come back for me if coming back makes you smaller. That was the biggest cost she could pay. Not money. Not title. Not moving a company. Giving up the guarantee. I touched her face. And you don't shrink your life to follow me. Agreed. Then we figure out the rest. She nodded. I walked toward departures. 10 steps later. Ryan. I turned. Madeline stood beside the car. No embarrassment. Say it again. I laughed. Wife. She smiled. Then let me leave. Eastboro was everything I hoped and worse than I expected. Good work usually is. The rapid response team had engineers, nurses, therapists, technicians, and one former paramedic who questioned every assumption with disturbing accuracy. Our first project involved a mobile surgical transfer platform that nurses hated because its side controls were hard to reach while guiding patients through tight corridors. The manufacturer blamed training. I asked nurses. They blamed geometry. Nurses were right. We built a temporary control extension in 2 days. Tested it. Changed the recommendation. Simple. No executive translation. I loved it. Madeline visited in week 3. She arrived Friday night with one carry-on bag. No assistant. No business excuse. I met her outside my apartment. She looked at the building. Small. It is temporary. Your kitchen? Worse. She smiled. I missed you. Direct now. No fear. I missed you too. Then she looked at my tie. I wasn't wearing one. That is disappointing. You have developed a problem. Yes. Long distance did not become a montage of perfect weekends. Sometimes her flight was canceled. Sometimes I had Saturday clinical work. Sometimes she called exhausted and we talked for 12 minutes because 12 was all we had. The important thing was that each problem did not become evidence the relationship was failing. We asked. Adjusted. Continued. 3 months in, Madeline called after a board dinner. You ate? Yes. Liar. I had appetizers. That is not dinner. She sighed. You are becoming controlling. Correct. Good night, husband. I smiled. She had upgraded herself without authorization. 4 months in, a female orthopedic engineer named Dana Reeves joined my team. Madeline met her during a visit. Dana was smart, funny, single, and had absolutely no romantic interest in me. Madeline still watched her for the first hour. Later. You were jealous. No. Madeline. A little. Good. You like that too much. I do. Then she asked, do I have anything to worry about? That was the mature version of jealousy. No. She nodded. Done. 6 months in, Eastboro posted the permanent role. Director of Rapid Clinical Engineering. I applied. Madeline knew. Supported it. Hated it. All simultaneously. She never called the selection committee. Never offered Whitmore partnership money. Never created a retention role. Nothing. I made the final 3 candidates. Then the third major reversal came from Whitmore. Nathan called. Before you panic, Madeline did not ask me to. Good start. What? The clinical reliability division is working. I smiled. Who got the VP job? Caleb Moss. Strong choice. Good. He rebuilt the review structure around field teams. Also good. And we're opening an external clinical fellowship partnership next year. I leaned back. With Eastboro? One of the possibilities. That was funny. I had left because Whitmore could not give me enough direct clinical work. My departure helped expose that gap. The company changed without needing to drag me back. That was the best outcome. Nathan added, Madeline was right. About? That losing you might teach the company more than retaining you. I went quiet. She said that? At the board retreat after you left. I called her that night. You told the board losing me might be useful. Silence. Nathan talks too much. Why? Because companies become stupid when they treat every valuable employee leaving as an emergency to reverse. That was something I would say. Apparently she had been listening too. You changed. So did you. Then she asked, carefully, did Eastboro decide? Tomorrow. Her voice softened. Call me first. Yes. The next afternoon, Eastboro offered me the job. Permanent. I stared at the letter for almost 5 minutes. Then called Madeline. She answered before the first ring finished. Well, I got it. Silence. Long. Thin. Congratulations. Painfully sincere. Madeline. I mean it. I know. You're taking it. Yes. Another silence. Then. Okay. That was it. No collapse. No manipulation. We had already solved the emotional problem months earlier. Now we had to solve logistics. I want to keep us, I said. Her breath caught. So do I. 2 cities. Yes. Flights. Yes. Bad schedules. Yes. Eventually something has to change. I know. Not today. No. Good. A month later, Whitmore held its annual Clinical Technology Forum in Minneapolis. For once, Madeline had a legitimate business reason to be in my city. She arrived Thursday, presented Friday, then disappeared from the executive reception and found me in Eastborough's prototype lab. I was wearing safety glasses and holding a torque wrench. She stood in the doorway in a black dress. I stared. You left your reception. Yes. Board members? Surviving. Investors? Also. She walked closer. What are you working on? I showed her the control extension. She listened, asked good questions, then put something on the bench. The red binder. Again. I laughed. You flew with that? Yes. Why? Open it. Inside was the old report. And a photograph. Conference room security still. The night of the first failure. Me at the table. Madeline beside me holding the red binder. Neither of us looking at the camera. Underneath, she had written, before. Then another photo. Taken 3 weeks earlier. Us at a Minneapolis restaurant. Her hand in mine. Both laughing. After. I looked at her. This is dangerously sentimental. I know. Then she pulled a third thing from the binder. Not a ring. A key. I raised an eyebrow. What? I rented a small apartment here. I stared. Madeline. Listen. CEO voice. I listened. Whitmore's Eastborough partnership requires me here 4 to 6 nights monthly next year. That is true. I am tired of hotels. Also believable. And I want somewhere here that is mine. That mattered. Not moving into my apartment. Not relocating headquarters. Not using corporate power to manufacture proximity. A place of her own in a city she already needed to visit. How much of this is business? 50. And me? 50. Honest. Yes. She held out the key. Emergency copy. I took it, then reached into my pocket. Madeline's eyes narrowed. What? I gave her my apartment key. She stared. Emergency? No. Her expression changed. Then what? Come over when you're in town. She looked at me. Without asking? Text first. Reasonable. But you don't need an excuse. Her eyes went shiny. That was the final relationship problem solved. Not marriage. Not yet. Belonging without ownership. I touched the red binder. You know what's funny? What? The accidental part. Madeline frowned. What about it? I don't think it was completely accidental. She froze. I smiled. Explain. I had been thinking about you too. Her face changed completely. When? Before the failure review. How long? Months. Months? You were impossible not to notice. Madeline stepped closer. Why didn't you say anything? You were my CEO. That excuse sounds familiar. It was a good one. And wife? I laughed. I had imagined it. Her eyes widened. You imagined calling me wife. Once. Once? Maybe more. She grabbed my shirt. You let me believe your brain invented it from nothing. It slipped out. That part was real. But the word was already there. Yes. Madeline looked almost offended. Then delighted. That was the final reversal. She had not been alone. The entire time she was suppressing her feelings, I had been doing my own quieter version. I just had not understood how far my mind had already gone until exhaustion said the word before caution could stop it. Madeline leaned close. Say it. I smiled. Girlfriend. Her eyes narrowed. Wrong. CO. Ryan. I wrapped an arm around her waist. Wife. Her face softened instantly, even after all these months. Still. Then she whispered, again. I kissed her first. When we separated. Wife. Again. She smiled. And for the first time, the word no longer felt like an accident. Not a promise either. Something better. A direction we had both chosen long before either of us was ready to admit it. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.